Hello, and welcome back to the Savvy Successful Mompreneur Podcast, where we talk about what it really looks like to build a successful life and business while raising a family. I'm your host, Savannah, and today we're diving into a topic that I think almost every mompreneur understands deeply, but very few actually talk about. Today, we're talking about the hidden mental load of moms. And not just moms, but moms who are also entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders, creators, and decision makers. Because here's the reality. When people look at successful mompreneurs from the outside, they often see the highlight reel. They see the businesses, they see the social media posts, they see the wins. But what they don't see is the constant running list in our heads, the invisible planning, the mental judging, the emotional labor, the thousands of decisions we make every single day. And today, I want to pull the curtain back on that. Not to complain, not to play victim, but to bring awareness to something that is very real for many women building businesses while raising families. Because understanding the mental load is the first step towards managing it in a healthy way. Now, let's start with what the mental load actually is. The mental load is the constant responsibility of thinking about planning, remembering, and managing everything that keeps life running smoothly. It's not just doing tasks. It's about being responsible for the tasks that exist in the first place. For example, making dinner is a task. But that mental load itself includes thinking about what dinner should be, checking if you have the ingredients, planning meals for the week, remembering to defrost something, making the grocery list, remembering that you're out of ketchup. The same thing happens with parenting. You just don't take your child to dance class. You remember when registration opens, you sign them up. You remember practice days. You remember recital costumes. You plan transportation. You track the schedule. And if you're a mompreneur, you're doing all of that while also running a business, which adds a completely different layer. Because now your brain is also managing customer needs, staffing issues, marketing, money, strategy, content, growth, leadership, vision, you name it. So what you end up with is two full-time mental loads running simultaneously. The home and the business, and many moms are carrying both. Now here's the thing. Entrepreneurship by itself already requires an enormous mental capacity. Business owners make hundreds of decisions every day. What to prioritize, where to invest, how to solve problems, how to lead people, how to grow, how to adapt. Now layer motherhood on top of that. And suddenly you're responsible for two ecosystems, your family and your business, both of which depend on you, both of which require leadership, both of which require emotional energy, both of which require decision making, and both require you to show up consistently. This is why so many mompreneurs say something that sounds like this. I'm exhausted, but I didn't actually do that much today. And that's because the exhaustion often comes from thinking, planning, and carrying the responsibility, not just physical task. Mental load is invisible work, but it still drains energy. One of the biggest impacts of the mental load is something called decision fatigue. Decision fatigue happens when your brain gets tired from too many decisions. And the truth is, moms and entrepreneurs are two of the most decision-heavy roles that exist. Let's just walk through a normal day. You wake up, you decide what the kids will wear, you decide breakfast, you decide to work your priorities, you respond to messages, you solve customer problems, you decide what content to post, you decide dinner, you decide bedtime routines, you make financial decisions, scheduling decisions, you make relationship decisions, and every single decision takes mental energy. Which is why sometimes at the end of the day, you feel like you can't even decide what show to watch. Your brain, it's simply tapped out. Another layer of the mental load that many moms experience is guilt. Mom guilt, business guilt, productivity guilt, The guilt of feeling like you should be doing more. When you're working, you sometimes feel like you should be with your kids. When you're with your kids, you sometimes feel like you should be working. When you're resting, you feel like you should be being productive. And that constant internal dialogue becomes another part of the mental load. It's not just tasks, it's emotional pressure. The pressure to be a great mom, a great business owner, a great partner, a great friend, and a great leader all at the same time. And that pressure, it can become incredibly heavy. Now, here's the truth about strong women. Something interesting happens with women who are capable, driven, and strong. People begin to assume that we can handle everything. We're organized, we're reliable, and we're capable. So naturally, more responsibility ends up on our shoulders. And over time, we quietly become the default manager of everything. But strength doesn't mean we don't get to feel the weight. It just means you've gotten very good at carrying it. Now, I want to pause here and ask you something. If you're listening right now, what is currently running through your mind? Maybe you're thinking about something you forgot to do, something you need to schedule, perhaps something for your kids or your business, something you need to buy, something you need to fix. That constant running checklist is the mental load in action. And many women have been carrying it for so long, they just assume it's normal. But acknowledging it is powerful because awareness is the first step towards reducing overwhelm. Now, here's where things get important. When the mental load becomes too heavy for too long, it leads to silent burnout. Not dramatic burnout, not the kind where everything just explodes, but the quiet kind. The kind where you just start feeling mentally drained, emotionally flat, less excited about your business, less patient at home, more snippy, less creative, less motivated. And then many mompreneurs blame themselves. You're just simply carrying too much responsibility in your head. Instead of asking, why am I so overwhelmed? A better question might be, how much responsibility am I carrying mentally right now? Because many women are managing their businesses, their household, their children's schedules, their finances, their relationships, the emotional labor, their community obligations, future planning. That's a lot for one brain. But here's the encouraging part. The goal isn't to eliminate responsibility, because many, if not all of us, love being moms and entrepreneurs at the same time. The goal is to manage the mental load in a healthier way. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about in the next part of this episode. How successful mompreneurs reduce decision fatigue, build supportive systems, create mental space, and lead both their families and their businesses without burning themselves out. Because success isn't just about building something amazing. It's about building something amazing without destroying yourself in the process. The invisible responsibility of thinking, planning, remembering, organizing, and managing everything that keeps both our families and our businesses running. And if you're a mompreneur listening to this, chances are you recognize yourself in that conversation. Because the truth is, many of us are running two full ecosystems every single day in our heads, our homes and our businesses. But here's the good news. The goal, it's not to eliminate responsibility. That's unrealistic. And honestly, many of us thrive on leadership and responsibility. I know I do. The goal is to lighten the mental load so it doesn't consume you. One of the biggest contributors to mental load is something incredibly simple. We try to remember everything: appointments, tasks, ideas, deadline, groceries, business, school, content, client messages, financial reminders. And the problem with strong everything in your brain is that your brain was never designed to be a storage unit. Your brain is designed to think and create. not store endless lists. Successful entrepreneurs, they understand this, which is why one of the first ways to reduce the mental load is to get things out of your head and into systems. This could look like a master to-do list, a digital planner, a project management tool, a notebook that you carry everywhere, whatever works for you. But the key is this: stop trying to hold everything mentally. When tasks live outside your brain, your mind, it suddenly has space to breathe. For me, I use my Google Calendar. I put everything in it. Appointments, tasks, schedules, it's all in there. If I even need to just remember to send a text message, I put that in there as a task. Like, at 11 a.m. tomorrow, text so-and-so, or whatever it is. My husband, he writes everything down in notebooks and carries them around with him. Just little pocket-sized notebooks that he can keep in his back pocket. There's so many ways. You just have to find what works for you. And remember earlier when we talked about how many decisions moms make every day? One of the smartest things you can do as a mompreneur is to remove unnecessary decisions from your life. High performers do this all the time. Think about it. Some of the most successful people in the world simplify their routines. They wear similar clothes, they eat similar breakfasts, they follow structured schedules, not because they lack creativity, but because they want to protect their decision-making energy. As a mompreneur, this could look like planning meals for the week, setting a weekly work structure, batching your content, creating routines for mornings and evenings. Because every routine you build is one less decision you have to make. And those small changes, they add up to a massive reduction in mental load. Let me give you an example. Our restaurant, it's your typical mom and pop restaurant. It has daily specials. And the customers, they've grown to like, appreciate, and want those unique and daily specials. But every day, it was such a mental load for me to think about what I was going to run, the pricing structure, how many sides, one side or two, what kind of sides. So you know what I did? That was something I was able to delegate off. I delegated it to our manager, and I had her write everything on a calendar. I gave her a literal plain printout of a calendar. We're just going to say February 2025 calendar off of Google. I said, fill this in with our specials. And she did just that. And then you know what I did? I turned it into a document in Canva that literally next year for February 2026, I can just pull that out. All my specials are there for me. I might have to update the pricing. But the thought, the mental load of it is off my plate for practically eternity. Those little changes are what adds up. We also need to stop carrying responsibilities that aren't ours to carry. And this one can be a little uncomfortable to talk about, but it's incredibly important. Many women unintentionally take responsibility for things that don't actually belong to them. We try and manage everyone's emotions. We try and solve everyone's problems. We remember everything for everyone. We become the family calendar. We become the family planner. The family reminder system, the family problem solver. And over time, that can become overwhelming. Part of reducing the mental load is recognizing that not everything is yours to manage. Your partner can remember his own things. Your kids can learn responsibly. Your team, they can solve problems. Delegation, it's not just about tasks, but about sharing responsibility. And with that comes to building systems that can run without you. Like I said with my calendar earlier, my specials calendar. Literally anybody that has access to my Canva could go in there and print that off and have the specials for next year. They don't need me for that. And we're doing this monthly. So there will be a year's worth of specials already planned out. So every year you just pull the same specials out of my Canva. That nobody needs me for that. That's a system that's now in place. Same with other checklists for my other businesses. People don't need me for the opening duties. They don't need me for the closing duties. There's a checklist for that. Entrepreneurship often starts with us doing everything ourselves. We answer messages, we make decisions, we create content, we solve problems, we manage operations. And for a while that works. But if everything depends on you forever, the mental load will become too heavy, which is why systems are so powerful. Systems, checklists, and people will get you to where you need to go. Systems allow part of your business to operate without that constant mental involvement. In addition to what I mentioned earlier, you can do templates for customer responses. If a customer calls in and says, XYZ was wrong with my food, I have a template that my employee can respond back with to fix that. You can schedule your content. And it doesn't have to be laid out with the exact thing you're going to say each time, but laid out with themes. Like at my pizza shop, we're going to roll out Give Back Fridays. That's actually taking something off my plate because now every Friday, I can set a generic post to post and it'll do it. It'll do it for me. I don't have to think about it. The same with the standard operating procedures. Like I said with the opening and closing checklist. They don't need me to open. They don't need me to remind them how to unlock a door or unlock an ice chest or turn on lights. It's laid out for them. Have clear team responsibilities. If we go back to the restaurant for a second, you wouldn't have your back of house person setting up the front of house tables, just like you wouldn't have your servers prepping the mashed potatoes. Have clear team responsibilities. Automate the processes. Every system you create removes future mental effort, and that's how businesses become sustainable. Now, this one might be the most important yet. Protect your mental space. Mompreneurs are often surrounded by constant input, notifications, messages, requests, social media, emails, customer needs, family needs, community obligations. Your brain, it rarely gets quiet. And when your brain never rests, the mental load, it keeps growing, which is why protecting your mental space is critical. That might mean phone-free mornings, dedicated focus hours, saying no to commitments, taking walks without your phone, scheduling quiet time. Because leadership, it requires clarity, and clarity requires mental space. Something happens when mompreneurs begin managing their mental load better. They stop operating in survival mode. They start operating in leadership mode. Instead of reacting to everything, they begin directing their lives intentionally. Instead of juggling chaos, they build systems. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, they create structure. And this is where mompreneurs become incredibly powerful. Because when a woman learns to lead both her family and her business with clarity, her impact, it multiplies. And if you're listening to this while driving, or folding the laundry, or finishing up work late at night, I want to speak directly to you for a moment. You're carrying more than most people realize. You're thinking about things constantly. You're planning ahead. You are holding responsibilities. You are building something. You are raising humans. You are managing life. And the fact that you're doing all this does not make you weak. It makes you incredibly strong. It also makes you incredibly capable. But capability doesn't mean you have to carry everything alone. Reducing the mental load doesn't mean you're doing less. It just means you're leading smarter. I truly believe we're living in a time where women are redefining entrepreneurship. For a long time, the business world promoted a model that said success meant working endlessly, sacrificing everything, burning out. But mompreneurs, we're rewriting that story. We're proving that you can build businesses, lead teams, create impact, and still prioritize your family. But doing that requires intentional leadership of your time, energy, and mental capacity. Which is why conversations like this matter. If today's episode resonated with you, if you felt it, here's something I want you to remember. You don't need to carry everything alone. You don't need to keep everything in your head. You don't need to prove your strength by doing everything yourself. The most successful mompreneurs are not the ones who carry the most weight. They're the ones who learn how to carry it wisely. They build systems. They share responsibility. They protect their energy, and they lead their businesses and families with clarity. And that is what being a savvy, successful mompreneur is really about. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If you felt this episode, I would love for you to share it with another mom who might need to hear this message. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the Savvy Successful Mompreneur Podcast so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep building, keep leading, and remember, you don't have to do it all to be successful. You just have to lead wisely. See you next time.